Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today I want you to picture a map. But don't just look at the borders or, the capitals. I want you to see this one specific part of the world as like a crossroads. A place that has been conquered, redrawn, burned down, and renamed more times than almost anywhere else.
It's a heavy stack of notes today, for sure. And that image, the crossroads, it's perfect because we're looking at a chronology called the Persian Pulse.
The Persian Pulse, I love that title. It feels alive, you know? Not some dusty timeline of dead kings, but heartbeat, something that's always moving.
Exactly. And the heart and the center of all this is Iran. But right away, and this is, I think, the first hurdle for a lot of people, we have to talk about the name, the whole identity thing.
Yeah, the branding issue.
Right. You open a history book, you see Persia. You turn on the news, you see Iran.
And they feel so different. I mean, Persia sounds like something out of a storybook. Magic carpets, ancient palaces. Iran feels, I don't know, like a modern, gritty headline. But it's the same place.
It is. And the difference is actually pretty simple, but it tells you so much. Persia is what the ancient Greeks called the region. It's an exonym, what outsiders called it.
Okay.
But Iran, that's what the people there have always called themselves. It means land of the Aryans. So in 1935, when the government asked the world to start using Iran, they weren't changing the name.
They were just asking everyone to catch up.
They were saying, call us by our real name.
That's a power move. But our mission here isn't just sorting out names. We're looking at a timeline that is, what, 2,500 years long?
Yeah.
Looking at these notes, my brain hurts a little. How do we even begin to tackle that?
Well, we don't do it by just listing dates. That would put everyone to sleep. The whole point of this Persian pulse source is to trace a legacy of resilience, to figure out how one civilization survives the Greeks, the Arabs, the Mongols,
And modern revolution.
and still has this incredibly distinct identity. It's really a survival story.
That's the hook. Okay, so where do we start?
We have to start at the foundation, and I mean the very beginning of what you'd call an empire. We're going back to 550 BCE.
The Achaemenid Empire.
Exactly. And the main character is Cyrus the Great.
Right. Now, when we talk about ancient emperors, it's usually pretty brutal, all bloodshed and burning cities. But the notes describe Cyrus as a visionary. What made him so different?
He basically flipped the script on what it meant to be a conqueror. You have to get the context. Before Cyrus, if you conquered a place, say, Babylon, the standard move was total domination.
You destroy their temples, ban their language, erase their culture.
Exactly. You rule by making them you. But Cyrus did something, well, radical. He conquered these huge territories. I mean, this was the largest empire the world had ever seen at that point. And he looked at all these different peoples and basically said, keep your gods, keep your customs, just pay your taxes and don't rebel.
That sounds surprisingly modern, almost like a federal system.
It was incredibly pragmatic. But there was a moral dimension to it, too. And there's an artifact that proves it, which is one of my favorite objects in all of history, the Cyrus cylinder.
I think I've seen a picture of that. It's like a clay football that someone rolled over some writing.
That's a pretty good description, actually. It's a clay barrel covered in cuneiform script. And the text on it isn't just bragging about his victories, it's a proclamation. And many people, including the UN, call it the world's first charter of human rights.
Wait, really? A Charter of Human Rights in 550 BCE. That concept feels so recent, like a post-World War II thing.
It does. But the text is explicit. It says he freed the slaves in Babylon. It says he allowed deported peoples, including the Jewish people, to return to their homelands and rebuild their temples. He basically invented religious tolerance as state policy.
So the Persian Pulse, it starts with this beat of tolerance.
Tolerance and brilliant administration. That's the key. Being Persian wasn't about an ethnicity. It was about a shared system that respected diversity. It wasn't just fear holding it together. People actually preferred it.
Okay, so you have this incredibly strong foundation. But this is history, and no empire lasts forever.
Nothing lasts forever. And the real test, the one that defines modern Iran more than almost anything, came later. We need to jump forward to the 7th century.
The Arab conquest.
Right. The arrival of Islam.
Now, this seems like the moment where that Persian identity should have just died. You have a new religion, a new language, a new government. That's usually the recipe for total cultural erasure.
That is the standard pattern. I mean, look at Egypt. Ancient Egypt had its own language, its own gods for thousands of years. After the Arab conquest, it became Arabized. Today, Egypt is the heart of the Arab world.
But that didn't happen in Iran. They became Muslim, but they didn't become Arab.
Exactly. And this is the big twist in the story. This is where that resilience really kicks in. The Persians accepted Islam, but they held on fiercely to their language and their culture. And then they did something even crazier. They basically took over the intellectual leadership of the entire Islamic world.
This is the Islamic Golden Age the notes talk about. And there's a huge claim here. It says Persia became the global hub for science and medicine.
That's not an exaggeration. We're talking about the 8th to the 13th centuries. And you have to remember, while this is happening, Europe is in the so-called Dark Ages.
Right.
Meanwhile, Persian scholars are building observatories, mapping stars, and inventing new forms of math.
The notes mention algebra, so I guess every high schooler has Persia to thank for that.
They do. The word algebra comes from a book title by a Persian mathematician, Al-Khwarizmi. But it was way more than just math. Take medicine. A physician named Ibn Sina, or Avicenna in the West.
I've heard that name.
He wrote this massive encyclopedia, the Canon of Medicine. And get this, that book was the standard medical textbook in European universities.
For how long?
Until the mid-1600s.
Wait, hold on. So for 600 years, a doctor in France or Italy was learning how to treat patients from a Persian textbook.
That is the scale of the influence.
Yeah.
So when we talk about resilience, we don't just mean they survived. We mean they absorbed a shock and then outputted brilliance. They became the world's teachers.
That completely shatters the modern stereotype. I think when many Westerners hear Middle East, they think of conflict or oil, not the Silicon Valley of the ancient world.
It's the perfect analogy. It was the intellectual capital. And that pride, that sense that we are the thinkers, the poets, that's so deep in the Iranian DNA.
Which brings us, I guess, to the modern era. We have to fast forward because the pulse starts beating a lot faster as we hit the 20th century.
We're jumping to the Pahlavi dynasty.
And the visuals here just change completely. We're not talking about scrolls and mosques anymore. The source material has this old 16mm footage of, like, champagne parties and big American cars driving through Tehran.
This is the era of Mohammad Reza Shah, the Shah.
A very polarizing figure, but his goal seems pretty clear. Aggressive, rapid modernization.
And it was all fueled by one thing, black gold. Iran is sitting on some of the world's largest reserves, and in the 60s and 70s, as prices went up, the Shah basically had a blank check, and he decided to use it to westernize the country fast.
The notes mention his white revolution. It sounds like a war, but it wasn't.
No, it was a series of top-down reforms. He gave women the right to vote, he broke up feudal estates, built schools, hospitals. On paper, the statistics look amazing. Literacy rates shot up.
And the footage of Tehran from the 70s looks like Paris or London, women in mini skirts, discotheques, a real success story.
On the surface. But that glitz was a veneer. You have to look at what was happening underneath.
The conflict. Because if everything is getting so modern and wealthy, why was there so much anger?
Because not everyone was getting wealthy. The wealth gap was exploding. But even more than that, people felt their culture was being erased. The Shah's vision was absolute, and he enforced it with an iron-fisted rule.
The secret police, Savak.
Right. Notorious for torture and censorship. So you have this contradiction. He's saying, we're becoming a modern free nation, but if you criticize him, you disappear.
And there was a cultural backlash, too. A sense that he was selling Iran's soul to the West.
Exactly. And nothing captures that better than one specific event the notes highlight. The party at Persepolis in 1971.
Oh, the 2,500-year anniversary of the monarchy.
Often called the most expensive party in history. He invited kings and presidents from all over the world. They built a literal tent city in the desert, flew in chefs from Paris.
And who wasn't invited?
The Iranian people. They were kept miles away. It was a celebration of Persian history that excluded the Persian people. That imagery, the Shah drinking champagne with foreigners while his own people struggled, it was just toxic. It united everyone against him.
You can just feel the pressure building. You have the religious conservatives, the leftist students, the merchants, and the bazaar.
All of them agreeing on one thing.
The Shah has to go.
Which brings us to the turning point, 1979.
You really can't overstate this year. It's like one of those dates that just draws a line in history, a before and an after.
A total earthquake. The Islamic Revolution. And this wasn't a coup. This was a popular revolution. Millions of people in the streets.
Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, returning from exile, the Shah flees.
And with him ends, get this, 2,500 years of monarchy.
Wow. Just think about that. That continuous line from Cyrus all the way to 1979, it just snaps. And it's replaced by something entirely new. The Islamic Republic.
And the geopolitical fallout is immediate.
The storming of the U.S. Embassy.
That's the image burned into the American mind. Iranian students taking 52 American diplomats hostage for 444 days.
Why did they do that? I mean, it seems like such a radical move guaranteed to make an enemy of the U.S.
It was, but from their perspective, it was driven by fear. They were terrified. The U.S. was about to stage a coup to put the Shah back on the throne, just like they'd done back in 1953. They saw it as a defensive move to protect the revolution.
But the price was total isolation.
Complete isolation. The Iron Curtain basically falls around Iran, and we are still, today, living in the shadow of that event. It defines the headlines.
So let's just recap this journey. We've gone from Cyrus's tolerance to the golden age of science to the Shah's oil-fueled glamour, and then this explosive revolution. That is a lot for one culture to absorb.
It's a roller coaster. But if we go back to that Persian pulse idea, what's the through line?
Well, the source suggests that through all of it, the core culture, the heritage, it stays strong.
Exactly. Governments rise and fall. But the culture, the poetry, the art, the legendary hospitality, that persists.
It's interesting you mentioned poetry. The notes say it isn't just for academics there. Taxi drivers quote it.
They do. You can go to the tomb of a poet like Hafez today, and it will be packed with young Iranians reading verses. That connection to their language, to their history, it's the glue. It's its own form of resistance. It says, we know who we are no matter who's in charge.
The source ends by describing Iran today as standing at a crossroads once again.
Once again, that's the key phrase. This is what they do. They stand at crossroads. When the Arabs arrived, they adapted. When the Mongols came, they rebuilt.
But this time feels different, doesn't it? The population is so young, so educated, and so connected to the outside world through the internet.
It creates this incredible tension. You have this revolutionary government structure from 1979 and a population that is, in many ways, the heir to that golden age legacy of science and progress.
It's a clash between the past and the future.
For sure. And that leads to the final big question the source leaves us with.
Go on.
Well, if this Persian pulse is defined by absorbing huge shocks and then producing something new, think about the shock they've been under for 40 years. Sanctions, isolation, that's a massive, prolonged shock.
So what comes out of that pressure cooker?
History suggests it won't just be collapse, it'll be transformation. We always look for a political revolution, but what if the next revolution is something else?
Like a technological one.
Or a cultural one. Why not? Look at the Iranian diaspora. They're at the top of their fields in tech, in medicine. Inside the country, you see this incredible startup scene and art scene pushing against the restrictions.
So just like the pressure in the 7th century led to algebra.
The pressure today might force them to innovate in ways we can't even see yet. You should never, ever underestimate the capacity of a 2,500-year-old civilization to surprise you.
It really changes how you look at the map. It's not just a trouble spot. It's this deep, active reservoir of human history.
The pulse is still beating, waiting for the next beat.
Well, that is a lot to think about. From a clay cylinder to the Instagram feeds of Tehran, what a ride. We hope this deep dive gave you a new way of seeing a country that's often in the news, but rarely understood in this context.
Context is everything.
It sure is. Thanks for diving in with us.
Until next time.